especially at the time, like there weren't a lot of things like us around. Like super fast, super angry. Like that wasn't really a Rhode Island staple. Maybe some other scenes had that, but here we're definitely like an outlier.
Hello and welcome to Where the Living Room Used to Be, a podcast about Rhode Island's music scene. Hey everyone, it's James. On this episode, I got to talk with Ben Barnett from the band Dropdead. You may also know him as a person that runs Armageddon label and is part of Armageddon Shop, which has locations both here in Providence and in Boston. In our interview, Ben takes us through Dropdead's discography all the way up to the new LP that's scheduled to be released next month. Make sure to listen to the complete episode here because we've got some new tracks off of that. We also talked about the early days and evolution of the band, recording with Kurt from Converge, and what he's been up to in general with the label and shop. One thing I really liked about our conversation was how Ben recognized that the Providence scene and how playing with a variety of different bands, sharing tips with each other, really helped move Dropdead along to the internationally known touring band that they are today. So hope you enjoy the episode. Please tell a friend or leave a positive review wherever you're listening right now. And make sure to follow at Living Room UTB on Facebook and Instagram to see some show flyers, band photos, and more from Ben's time in music. Can you talk a little bit about where you grew up? I mean, you're not originally from Rhode Island, correct?
No, I'm from Attleboro.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I was born at Sturdy.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so, my parents are Plainville, North Attleboro. So I spent
just from right around here, yeah?
Yeah, 71 to 83, I lived Plainville, Attleboro, Mansfield, Foxborough.
Yeah, okay.
Over the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I moved to the West Coast in 83 in California, and I moved back here in 89.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a 6-year stint on the West Coast for the bulk of the teenage years. And then, I moved back here after school was done.
Oh, I got you. So what was it like for you growing up? Like, was music around in the home at an early age, or like?
Yeah, what? Yeah. I mean, my old man is he played drums in a band. In the early 70s, the Strawberry Velvet Under Armpit.
Well, what kind of music was that?
Like probably garage and rock stuff.
I got you. Yeah.
Doing back then, like 60s stuff. Like local band stuff. But, he still plays drums, and he's in his mid 60s. He sits on the cans whenever he can.
That's cool.
But yeah, I grew up. He always had records and music around. My uncle was really into the blues. My mom, she liked stuff, but that wasn't a super focus for her. But definitely the artsy, musicy side of my family for sure. Yeah. Okay.
And when did you start playing music yourself?
Oh, if we can call it music. I would say, farted around with some stuff in high school with a couple of friends, but that was like, somebody had a guitar they played through their stereo type.
Yeah. Okay.
Level, like nothing that you'd really consider actually playing music. I didn't start playing guitar really until after I'd met Brian and Bob here in 89.
Okay.
And jamming a little bit with me singing and Bob playing guitar. Mm-hmm. I watched him play for about a year before we switched. So it was kind of, I don't know. I learned how to play guitar watching Bob play guitar.
Yeah, and this is Bob from Dropdead, Bob Otis from Dropdead.
Yeah, Bob Otis. So,
and what brought that on? Like, what brought that switch on?
I don't know. I think we jammed for a year, and it just wasn't. It was fun, but it wasn't really like. It wasn't super dialed in, and practices were fun, but we weren't like getting through songs consistently.
Okay.
I'd started farting around on guitar, and I think there was just some point where we just switched it up.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. It seems like we're still here doing it today. It must have worked out somehow.
Yeah, you've had a pretty big impact. So,
it was unintentional, but it just went this way.
Yeah. And what were you guys listening to back then? Like, what was some of the inspiration for the bands?
I think obviously everyone's would have a different answer on that, but at that time period, I would say, fast old U.S. hardcore, foreign, like, European, Japanese, Scandinavian hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think we were into whatever was fast and crazy sounding, and whatever was the most like train about to go off the tracks sounding stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Like right to the edge there. Yeah.
Plus, other genres of music too. Stuff from like the Swans to, Swans, Ministry, Coil, and metal stuff. Black Sabbath and all this stuff that we all listen to. Metallica, Judas Priest.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a pretty wide musical palette. But like as far as influence in the band, like the main stuff was like this stuff that just sounded the most ferocious.
Yeah.
We tried to figure out how to make our version of that.
I gotcha. Yeah. But for even you personally, like your guitar sound, like how were you continuing to learn, and like who were you looking to certain bands and like learning by ear, or were you?
Yeah, I play by ear. Like I know, I like to say I know one chord and I just know how to move it around a lot.
Okay.
I'm not a guitar like super technical player. I'm definitely a rhythm guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a super gear nerd. So like plug in, turn everything up, go. Back then it was play as fast as we can without falling off the tracks.
Yeah.
Like influence for that. Our influences were what we were listening to, but we were really limited by our abilities. Like, Brian, who plays drums, was not a drummer. He's a guitar player. Like, stringed instruments are his, like he could play Yngwie Malmsteen, Black Star, to a T, with his eyes closed, and play Discharge songs and Holding On for Dear Life. So, we're all kind of doing not like we're playing instruments that we weren't probably supposed to play.
Okay.
So it's just kind of like we've learned as we've gone along, and we just kind of made it up like the best we could.
Yeah. Okay.
Like there wasn't anyone I was trying to sound like. It was just like, what can I do within the limit of my abilities?
Mm-hmm.
And like I think we're all there, like from lyric writing to playing the drums or whatever. It's all sort of equal across the board for all of us.
Yeah,
definitely a little bit of work for us to do what we do. It's not like we're not musical savants by any means.
Okay, yeah.
And it's been that way like the whole time. It's always been like, we play shows and we're just like, wow, man, this. Just one little thing going kind of wrong, and this whole thing could just go right off the track. So,
but it sounds like that's what's exciting about it is that it's there.
It's fun to play like that. You're never overconfident about stuff. You're always, hey, well, I hope this goes okay.
Yeah. I could hear just from like listening to you and just watching, some other videos and stuff like that it seems that you guys are just so like blistering and any like a bad PA system or a bad monitor, and it just it throws you guys off that all of those the tightness and the stops and such a compact onslaught of sound could just totally train wreck, So
it's definitely easier to play something like AS220. It's like playing, the sound up on stage is basically like what you sound like in your practice room.
Yeah.
We're super comfortable with, and then we'll play a bigger thing. And
playing festivals.
Now you're all 20 feet apart, and the monitor guy's not doing anything, or like, wherever the monitor's pointing, you have to stand in that spot. I mean, it's we're not professionals, man. It's a real learning curve on that stuff. There's some pretty wild stuff that goes on big stages for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, I guess getting back to some of the early stuff, can you talk about your first show, your first shows, what was that experience like? Where were you playing back in 90? Like you started in 91, right?
Yeah. So our first show was at I think it was at the Car House at RISD.
Okay.
Oh, the RISD Tap Room. Sorry, my bad. The RISD Tap Room on Benefit Street. Floor or something. Empty upstairs room on the RISD campus. I think there was a band that was supposed to play that canceled, and the guys that booked the show, Paul Slifer, who is the famous tattoo artist now, and Forrest Curl, I think maybe had something to do with it. Who did Hope Street Tattoo? Also, one of them came by Fast Forward where I was working at the time on Thayer Street. It was like, got this show, band quit. So if you guys want to play, go get your stuff and get down there. And so we just boogied out to Bob's house, grabbed our skimpy gear, and showed up at this thing, played a show unexpectedly. And it was, I gotta say, anyone that watched, thanks for not leaving the room. Honestly, I have no idea how that went at this point, but I'm sure it had its comedy moments.
And then how frequent were you playing after that? Did that solidify the band and say, we're doing this, and you started booking shows, or was there
I think a lot of bands, when you're just starting out, you want to play everything because you're super excited. So that first, April to maybe September or something, we tried to play as much stuff as we could, more than we should have, and where people were probably like, oh geez, not this again, but we played a lot. Every style of band, musically, it didn't, we're open-minded. So definitely in the first few years, I think our second show we played with the Swirlies from Boston.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're like a shoegaze band.
Yeah.
A free show at Fast Forward, us and them. And, we played with, you remember maybe Small Factory, Satellite and stuff like that. So like an indie pop band or an indie rock band. And then we would play with Vital Remains, so it was, it was a real broad selection of stuff that we're like, yeah, man, we'll do whatever.
That's cool.
I think, especially at the time, there weren't a lot of things like us around, super fast, super angry. That wasn't really a Rhode Island staple. Maybe some other scenes had that, but here we're definitely an outlier. Yeah, and it was cool to cross-pollinate and to go see other bands play in different styles, and everybody everybody respected what everyone else was doing and was generally super helpful, which I thought was real cool.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, guys like Rick Mink and Jeffrey from Velvet Crush.
Oh yeah.
Guys that worked it In Your Ear, all those guys, Evan, and they were older guys who also, they were around for the first wave of hardcore that was the early 80s. Here we are 10 years later, and we're doing something that they were like, oh yeah, you guys remind us of whatever band we saw back when. So it was cool to have dudes like that were still playing in bands, while they're working there, oh yeah, you guys got your own thing happening here. Yeah, Providence was a good scene, man. It was real supportive.
That's cool. And like, what were some of the places that you were playing? Like, do you remember the venues that were active at that time?
I mean, AS220, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
we're still like, that's like our home. That's our Providence home, I think. We've been playing there almost, soon it will be 30 years of us playing there. So
yeah.
Babyhead was around. You see Club Copa, Confetti's.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Skate Hut, I think the year we were playing together before Bob and I switched, the Skate Hut was still doing stuff, but I think that wrapped up before we were doing our thing. Shows at some spots around RISD. The record store, Fast Forward, was having shows in the store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where the hell else we played. There was like a whole series of short-lived clubs in Providence.
Yeah, okay.
Matthews and Street had a couple things that came and went real quick. Yeah. Early 90s, downtown Providence is not what it is now.
Yeah.
It was a real ghost town down there,
Yeah.
Church House Inn was having shows. Ty Gesso from PHE's, he was booking stuff all around town too back then.
Yeah, his name's come up quite a bit.
Yeah. Ty's been around forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's, we've played a couple Ty Gesso shows. Fort Thunder came to be around then.
Did you do stuff there as well?
Yeah, we played Fort Thunder a bunch. It's definitely hung out there a lot. And there were some other spaces in that building too that weren't the Fort.
Yeah, it was a giant complex. So yeah.
Yeah. I think there was a place called like the Cooler or the Igloo or something. We played a show with Small Factory that Ty did once. We played like house show in Warwick. We played out at Bob's house in North Smithfield. Played RIU, we played WSMU, and then we would go play Western Mass or Connecticut or wherever we could get a show.
Yeah, okay.
We definitely spent a lot of time in Providence, playing around Providence.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess that brings. So you actually did your demo, right, at WRIU? Was that the first demo?
Yeah, I think Jim from the Metal Cage and another.
Okay.
There was another DJ, Jim, as well, that was, he did more of like an industrial metal show. Like these two guys just like super cool, like, yeah, come down, we'll help you do a thing on the 4-track down there.
Okay.
Yeah, we went down to it one day and, left the cymbal stands or something at Bob's house in North Smithfield. So we had to go back like the next weekend or something and try again. Yeah. But, dudes were super cool about it. And we had zero, like less than no money. At that time we were all just like whatever work we could get doing, whatever day jobs or whatever. So, scrapping to get by for sure.
Yeah. So someone offered to do this for you.
Yeah. There was no like, we have money to go to a studio and do a demo thing. It was like 4 tracks or, a reel-to-reel 4-track, which is like, the Cadillac of 4-track.
Yeah. Cool.
Like two mics in a room or something,
Yeah. How was that? Was it just done live? The demo?
Yeah. Straight up live. Yeah. So we did a demo in August, and then we did our own 4-track demo in October, and scrounged and saved some bucks. And in February '92, yeah, I think that's about right. We went up to Boston to record.
Okay.
Some friends of ours up there, this band Disrupt. They recorded with this guy, Bill T. Miller, at a studio called Headroom, and it was like 15-track, like tiny little mixing room, tiny little live room, pretty punk rock.
Yeah.
Setup. But Bill was a cool dude. He was super nice, and we just went in there and blasted it. And I think most of that first thing we did in one take, and maybe there was a couple songs we did. Yeah. We didn't have money, so we were like,
we got to get through this. Yeah.
We have to get in there. We have to blast this thing.
Yeah.
And we put it out ourselves. Saved up money and just went downtown and found some place to print all this stuff. And it was super DIY.
Mm-hmm.
Like we weren't looking for someone else to do it for us. We're like, we'll just
Yeah.
But we had a lot of people, a lot of good examples ahead of us that had already done it. So.
Mm-hmm. And what was the response like to Dropdead? Like early on, were you were people gravitating to the band? Did they?
It was. I think it was like maybe three styles of response. Like, one was people would just stand there and not have a clue what was going on.
Okay.
You'd play and you'd see kids standing there, their mouths open, and then Bob would like run up, because Bob's like, at least back then, Bob was very explosive as a front.
Okay, yeah.
He'd jump off the stage, land on his knees, roll on the ground, stand up, wrap a mic cord around somebody's neck, and scare the crap out of them. And then 2 seconds later, he'd go down and untie their shoe, like to let them know that it was okay. Like he wasn't, actually gunning for him or whatever, but to have that level of intensity. And, so we'd have kids that were just like open mouthed and didn't really know what was going on. You'd have people that probably thought it was the most god awful crap they'd ever seen, or, as, making stinky faces against the back wall or whatever. And then there were other people that played music that were and music fans that were like, oh man, this is cool. Like nobody's doing this.
Okay.
And it was, there was people that liked it. There's people that didn't. There's people that didn't know what to make of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the three sides of that little triangle.
Yeah. So you were talking about putting out that first record. Was that the beginning of Armageddon, or was it?
No, actually, when I lived in California in the '80s, I'd done a fanzine for a couple of years, just like a high school kid music fanzine. Started with friends, and it wrapped up. Last issue wrapped up when I moved out here.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the end of my interest in doing print stuff.
Yeah.
But as I was leaving California, some friends of mine wanted to put out a record, which I was like, yeah, man, I'll try and figure this out, and we'll try and get a record together and hopefully get some people to check it out.
Yeah.
So I'd put out one record right as I moved here. That all sort of came together, and I did a record for the Disrupt guys up in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
with them, like with their help. We just split the cost, and like the guys, Terry from Disrupt worked in a print shop. With Jeff from Disrupt, and they printed the covers themselves, and it was real. I mean, back then it was like it's like now it's like super do it yourself, like everyone kind of working together to make it work.
Yeah.
And that label back then was called Crust Records, which, product of the time. It's the time. So that was the label label that we did the Dropdead record under. And that, I did records with that label up till maybe 96 or 97. And by then Dropdead was doing more stuff, and we, for 98, we were gearing up to do a new record.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a clean break and just stop doing the old label, come up with a new name, start fresh with the new Dropdead record.
Yeah.
So we, I passed the Crust Records stuff along to Judy at Fast Forward and was like, if you want to keep doing this stuff, just get in touch with the bands and make sure everybody's cool with everything. And I went off and just made a new name, Armageddon label. And decided to start that with the Dropdead record. Okay.
So the second LP was the first release under Armageddon.
Yeah. So that was a good fresh start.
Yeah.
And then so that we did that was like 1998, and we didn't do the store until 2001. And to keep a little bit of the name recognition, at least in the scene that I was trying to get records from to open the store with.
Okay.
You keep the Armageddon thing and change it from Armageddon label to Armageddon shop. So it was like slightly connected. You could connect the dots real easily of who was involved and, what it was growing out of. But yeah, that's where that name came from.
Cool. Well, can you talk a little bit more about what that second record was like, and what it was like recording that, and had there been some growth in the band from 91, 93 to 98 or something, or?
Yeah. So we did our first full LP in 93. That was done not by us, but by a guy who asked us to do a record. This guy Todd Green, who runs Selfless and Clearview Records down in Texas.
Okay.
1993, in August 92, we recorded some more stuff for a split with an Australian band called Rupture. Was put out by our drummer and his friend Pat Carrigan on a local label. And I think in spring of 93, we recorded some more stuff for a split record with some friends of ours from California. These guys crossed out, and we did a split 5-inch record, like a really tiny playable vinyl record. It's foolish format, but whatever. Brian's a super record.
That's cool. Yeah.
He always wanted to make every weird size record he could. That Rupture split was an 8-inch vinyl, and the crossed out was a 5-inch thing. And that was a split between 5 labels working together to make that happen.
Get it, yeah.
Yeah. And then, we didn't have any money. So Todd offered to pay for us to record. He gave us 2 options. One was Don Fury in New York City, who's recorded all the crazy New York hardcore records that, are all staples in, anyone's U.S. hardcore collection, or with Paul Mayhern from the Zero Boys, which, that would have been cool, but I don't know how we would have got out to the Midwest to, we had enough gas money to get to New York. So
that seemed more reasonable to get down there.
It seems like it's doable,
Yeah.
So we did an LP and recorded in 93, came out. I think it came out in 93, later in the fall of 93.
But I'm
Yeah, so we did that one LP, then we did another 7-inch for an Australian tour, and then we, time passed by, and then we did this this '98 record,
Mm-hmm.
and that was, I think we had, Dan St. Jake's from Olneyville Sound System.
Oh yeah.
We practiced. Brian and I practiced like almost every day. We lived in the same building on Union Ave for a while, and we had a practice room in the basement. So we would go practice, a couple days a week, and we cut together like 40 plus minutes of music that we whittled down to like 18. We did a demo with Dan that was like every song that we had that was a song, and recorded all of them. So we paid to give to Bob so we could write lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And, then we kind of cherry picked that and got 18 songs for that second LP.
Mm-hmm.
And we just practiced a ton and went to our friends had been recording with Kurt from Converge up in Boston. He had a basement studio up in Alston. And we were just like, hey, if you got time and interest, we would be super stoked to do a record with you helping us. It would be great. So we went up there and like in a weekend just did this basement LP, like 1-inch 24-track recording in a basement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was super cool. Kurt is a super. He gets us. His sense of humor, dry and appropriate, and he's just he's a real warm and great dude. And ever since then, he's like, all right, anytime we need to do something, you gotta, please make our stuff not sound terrible.
How did you connect with the guys from Converge? Was just from playing shows?
Everyone's been playing shows, and like all those guys have been in so many different bands over the years. Like, we've all been in the same rooms together, singing shows and playing shows and being and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that real connection with those guys was probably '98. Spending that time hanging out with Kurt and going up and hanging out when Pain Driver went up there and did their LP too.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was just like, this is a super nice dude, and he gets what's going on, and he's down to help people make music. He's doing any number of other things, and he's a super smart, super talented dude. We're fortunate to have him being a Sherpa for all of us Neanderthal and incompetent people attempting to play music types. He's if you got him in your corner, you can't really do any wrong other than your own terrible songwriting.
Okay.
So he's a dude with a good ear, and gives you good feedback. So but he was our connection to that, I think, directly, because again, Dropdead is, we play with anything and anyone, and sometimes it's weird. You can be in the same orbit and not land on the same spot. Like there's still like different scenes and different stuff going on, and we tried to break as many bridges as possible, but some of them are harder to break than others. You're not always invited into places where people aren't interested in sort of like cross-pollinating things.
Okay.
But time goes by, and eventually all those walls are rode away, and you end up hanging out with guys that are super cool. You can get to play with them like 900 times.
Yeah. How would you describe the second record as compared to the first one?
That second record had a lot of thought put into it. The first record was really re-recording a bunch of stuff that we had done on the EPs, trying to get maybe better versions or better sounding versions of them.
Okay.
And some songs that we had written since the EPs. And the 98 record was definitely, I spent a lot of time in my room with a guitar and an amp and a tape player. And yeah, I was trying to write differently, to stuff that was a little more evolved from the stuff that was on the first record.
Okay.
And I definitely, was a better guitar player, by
just over time.
by time and stubbornness of continuing to force myself to try to make the claw a little better. And we had some ideas about stuff we wanted to do, and we tried to put together a record that actually had a little bit of flow to it, where the first one sounds more like a bunch of songs just dropped on a record in random order. It didn't really have like a super great flow to it. So there was a little bit of duress, time wise for that first record. We were real like done in set up to done in 2 days or whatever, mixed and sequenced and everything in like 2 or 2.5 days. It was not, it was not super ideal.
Yeah.
That's on us too. Like, we were young and inexperienced, and we didn't know any better. So the 98 one, we had time, and I think we did vocals once with Bob, and he wasn't happy. We went back and did them again.
Mm-hmm.
We had the time to actually make it more cohesive, and to try stuff. Like the first record, we didn't really get to do 2 tracks of guitar, and on the second LP we did. So like, you could spread the sound out. There was a little more room to put a little more sauce. The word we use for like the tiny little things that hard to get maybe if you're just doing one take of something.
Oh yeah.
And and like a noise, like putting a noise thing in the middle of a song, and you're just trying weird shit. We put microphones inside the guitar cabinet. It's what happens when you read too many recording books while you're getting ready to go record a record with a guy who actually knows what he's doing.
You're like, this is a cool idea, Yeah.
Ding dong like me goes in there and is like, hey, Kurt, can we put microphones inside the guitar cabinet? And, he was very kind about it. I was like, sure, we can do that. And it's like, can I sit on the mixing desk and try EQing some stuff? And he was like, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. And hopefully, whatever he did when he was done, he went back and just put it back where it belonged. So,
okay. Yeah.
Good intentions, but also very educational. Let somebody who's good at what they do their thing and listen to their advice. Yeah, we're gonna have like six LPs worth of stuff coming out September, October.
Oh, okay.
Including the new record. So
yeah,
like I've been like in my free time here just putting record covers, like relaying out record covers that are already laid out, like having to rescan stuff and reassemble all this artwork, and it's been a real trip, man. Going through all the boxes and trying to find all the pieces. And
oh yeah,
because these things that we did record covers for, originally we did like paper layouts that were shoot with a stack camera and get film made. And then we redid stuff in the early 2000s on PageMaker. You know, we knew that, you know, in 2020 we were going to need to open PageMaker files. And let me tell you, some things just don't really work too good.
They're not compatible now. Yeah.
It's a rough sesh to try and bring some of that stuff back to life, and it is way easier to just like, all right, I'm going to have to scan everything, you know, blow it up to a huge DPI and relay everything out. And so like redoing work for the third time has been feeling like work for a little bit there, but you know, almost done, almost finished with the art for the new record too. So
so what are all the things that you're putting out then? And then I'd love to get into the new record as well, but you're like reissuing a bunch of Dropdead.
Yeah, so the thing we're starting right at the beginning, the demos, which is all the 1991 demos and a comp track that was on a guy, this guy Jake Austin, who was a RISD student, do a fanzine called Rocktober. It's early 90s, and I think he published Rocktober up into the 2000s. Dude is super knowledgeable about all, you know, every type of rock and roll and blues and funk, and like he's super amazing dude. But as a student, he was in a band with the Colonel.
Oh yeah.
The Phantom Creepers, which was like kind of like a little garagey surf rock, you know, Phantom themed thing. You know, he had like an eye mask on. He would play, and like it was fun. It was real. It was very Providence. He did a Kiss compilation cassette where he just asked local bands to like, record a Kiss cover. So our version of that is on this record.
Wow.
You know, a little side trip into some old Providence stuff. Good dudes. So that the first LP we got remastered, the discography of all the early singles. Remixed and remastered. Volume 2 of that, which is going to be from like 1995 through 2013 with all the singles and comp stuff. So discography 1, discography 2, the 1998 LP. So I think we're up to like that brings us around to like 5 LPs worth of stuff. And then the new record. So
can you talk more about the new record?
Yeah, man, it's been a while. I mean, we haven't done an LP since 1998, so it's, you know, 21 years between LPs. Fortunately, we've never been in a super rush to do anything. So, you know, we've done some singles, you know, some splits and some EPs and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, in the ensuing years, but you know, Bob's had a couple of incidents the last few years, major back surgery and then that motorcycle accident. 1 year, you know, back surgery, got better. Right as he was getting better, motorcycle accident. So we just kind of took the time to realize we weren't going to be playing out and we should just write and get enough stuff to actually do another record. Yeah, we hunkered down and spent some time writing songs. And just focusing on that more or less.
Yeah. You know? What is your songwriting process? Like how do the songs come together? Are you writing riffs or is people have different ideas?
Yeah, I think like 95% of the music is probably me. Usually sit around and play, you know, just plug and play. I might have had an idea during the day and I'll go, you know, hum it into my phone or something and then go try to figure it out when I get home.
Yeah.
But it's really just plugging and playing for a while and finding patterns you haven't done 600 times. And
trying to keep it new to you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to find the pattern and find the tempo and make something that has some flow to it. I mean, it's real easy to just clunk some parts together and yeah, I get a song, but trying to make them make sense is that's the challenge, at least for me anyway. But usually I get a song skeletonized pretty well, and then I will bring it to practice, and then we will beat the last 5 or 10% of it into shape. Get some feedback from George or Bob or Brian, and yeah, sometimes they have good ideas on how to alter something and make it actually work.
I gotcha. Yeah.
I definitely I bring in big chunks of stuff, and then we just kind of smash it into shape.
Yeah.
Brian and George contribute. George wrote a song. Brian, he's a guitar player. He could, he should probably be playing guitar. I should probably just be retired at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got an ear for what works and what doesn't, and when it doesn't, he lets you know. So yeah, no, it's a team effort.
But yeah, what can people expect with the new LP? And I know that. Well, I mean, unfortunately, you had to release some of the demo tracks because your van got stolen.
We've had
so people have heard some stuff, but how much has changed from the demos, and what can people expect overall with the 28-track new record?
Well, I think it's actually, we had 28 songs and we cut it down. I think we cut 5 songs. We got it down to 20, 22 or 23.
Oh, okay.
One song is kind of like a intro / song, but it's 2 separate things. So, 2, 23, whatever flip mode on that. I don't know. It's a record that makes sense now. It definitely has standard Dropdead feel for a lot of it, but there's also a lot of styles of stuff we're playing on it that is stuff that we haven't done before. But also none of us want to remake the same thing over and over again. There's enough of that you know who it is, but other elements. We wrote a stupid Boston hardcore song, like all the Boston bands in the early 80s. Some of the most fun songs that those bands had, everyone had a long, slow, dumb song, like Siege had Grim Reaper, that Fuse, everyone had just one song that was just kind of a long, lumbering, weird thing. And we're kind of like that stuff, We like stuff like the Swans and Flipper and, stuff where it's almost intentionally annoying. But, we've got a song like that on there, but this, we're not trying to break any speed barriers at this point. So, there's bands out there that are way, way faster and way tighter than us, and probably way faster and way tighter than we have ever been. So that attack that we had in 1991, 92, 93, where we were just pushing the turbo. It's you off that button because it doesn't really, we could do it, but it's not going to be anything fantastic. We would just be doing that style just to do that style. And that doesn't make sense. None of us are interested in that. We're write songs that got a little bit of flow to them and some melody. So you actually remember, you remember the song. At the end of the day, that's why I think people listen to music is there's, the earworm or the pattern, kind of gets you.
Getting in your head. Yeah.
There's songs you heard as a kid that you can never excise from your mind. Trying to write some stuff that has a little bit of earworm to it is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Maybe some people won't like it, but whatever, we like it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what that brings to mind though is just hearing, Ian from Fugazi talk about recording should be just documenting what's happening at this time. That that's always been his mentality with Teen Idols and Minor Threat and all this other stuff and at least that just kind of comes to mind with Dropdead. Like, 91, this is what Dropdead sounds like then. 98, this is what we sound like then, and this is what you sound like now. And it doesn't need to be more complex than that, but this is what the dudes in this band sound like when they're playing their music, So I think that's an awesome thing. To me, it sounds really exciting to hear what you're talking about,
That's what records are. They're just they are just snapshots in time. They're documents. Some people intentionally make records and try to intentionally just make one style of thing and just do it over and over and over again. One of my favorite bands is AC/DC. I love AC/DC. Up to probably for those about to rock. You know what you're getting on every AC/DC record. Maybe the first eight Motorhead records or whatever. Some bands, what you're getting. They're putting out a record every year or two. Not a lot of divergence within a year or two. With us putting out records over long spans of time, you could definitely play the 3 albums next to each other, and it's 3 different things. Which I'm kind of okay with that. I don't think that's a bad thing, and I don't know how creative it is to make the same record over and over again for 30 years.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you just listen to the first couple, and then there's 10 that sound just like it afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some place and time element to all this too. Guys who bought our first record might not still be around, or they might, they might just be past listening to what we're doing at this point, which I think is totally natural. I'm not as excited about finding things that sound like what I listened to 30 years ago as I was 30 years ago trying to find them,
Yeah.
Definitely more excited about finding a cool blues record or a cool, classic, heavy rock record I never heard, or even some kind of cool garage rock thing that I never heard. So
that's what's been
taste change and evolve, and you become more open-minded, and sometimes you just don't want a guy screaming at you for 30 minutes. You gotta be in the mood for that. So
but if you do, pick up the new Dropdead record.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to just talk a little bit more about the label and how that's grown over time.
I mean, so there's a couple different things going on. So I got a label that I do, which is the Armageddon label, and we have a label that we do with the shop that Chris and I do together, which is just Armageddon Shop. So we put out some records together through the shop, and then there's stuff that I just do on my own. It's doing my friends' bands or whatever. It's two totally sort of combined, sort of not combined things. It's hard for people to sort of wrap their heads around to a certain extent, but
Churchburn is on the label, right? They're from Rhode Island as well, correct?
Yeah. So Churchburn.
What other records are you putting out on the label?
All right. So, we'll do a quick history lesson. That's cool.
Of course.
The shop label, we 2011 for Record Store Day, Chris from Elder with the kids, dudes from Elder, they were coming in the shop all the time, and they had put out a record called Dead Roots that no, we liked it. It was real like sleep electric wizardy, like good stoner rock stuff. Record store day had become a little bit more of a thing every year since it started. And Chris was like, "Yeah, hey man, what do you think about asking these guys to do a record store day thing for the shop?" It's like, "Yeah, man, why not? You know, good guys, the music's good." So we started the shop label together, really with that.
Okay.
Prior to that, we had done a Brain Bombs CD through the shop too, but which we actually ended up doing as an LP as well. And Brain Bombs are, something I figured out in the 90s, and I think Ben from Load Records also super into them as well. He had put out a couple records by them, and, we reissued one of their albums, like the Swedish stuff. It's real stupid. It's kind of like Stooges meets no wave serial killer music. I mean, it's really like true crime set to one riff rock.
Yeah.
It's like lyrics about serial killers and, just weird twisted stuff done by Swedish dads. Like, these guys, they're not like super freakazoids or anything. They're like the most sort of regular looking dudes ever, but they have the dark sense of humor. So Chris and I, like that. We like weird, fucked up noise rock stuff. So, we did that. We did a Magic Circle LP, which is, kids that were playing hardcore in a bunch of hardcore bands over the years are super talented and all make project bands together and help each other out to like record and do stuff. They made a really good traditional sounding heavy metal record. A little new wave of British heavy metal, little Ozzy kind of vocals thing going on.
Okay. Yeah.
And their various pedigrees of all the bands they've been in is like a long list, but we did that. And we've done a bunch of Elder records, a bunch of Brain Bombs records, a couple Church Burn records, all stuff that, makes sense to do through the shop. We did a Nightstick LP, which is it's guys from Siege, from Weymouth, and it is like heavy psychedelic bummer rock, like really just scronky, fucked up stuff. Just weird, fucked up noise rock.
Yeah.
A thing that we both like. And I think what else we've done. Did a Fit for Abuse record, which is a hardcore record that I did on my previous Crust Records thing. It's got the drummer from the Dropkick Murphys singing on it, but it is maybe one of the best 1990s Massachusetts hardcore records. It's real simple. It sounds like it was recorded in the 80s. But songs are really well written and super catchy. We're like, yeah, this makes sense. We reissued Deep Wound 7-inch, which is Jay Mascis. It's his hardcore band before he was doing Dinosaur.
Yeah.
Like friend of ours put in a good word for us that we were responsible people and could let him do it right. And Jay's a super nice dude and was kind enough to let us do that. Yeah, so we've been pushing forward doing a lot of projects through the shop.
Yeah.
And I think next up on the radar is reissuing the Six Finger Satellite demo.
Oh, okay.
And the Six Finger Satellite, their first EP on Sub Pop.
Nice.
And they're split with Green Magnet School all on one record, which we have mastered. And we've been slow working on probably for like 2 years because, there's not a super rush on it. Money's a little tied up in other things, and we're sort of chipping away at these things as we have time and the extra dough to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, doing those records through the shop has been real cool. Just trying to keep it to things Chris and I are both super into and friends. And what I'm doing with the Armageddon label now is all this Dropdead stuff, which has been tapping me out time-wise like, the last couple months. And yeah, projects with friends. There's a bunch of people I've met over the years that are like doing cool stuff, and I feel like it's kind of fun to just maybe make 300 records with your friends. Mm-hmm. Nobody's trying to get rich or like get famous doing a record with me. Like, we're just trying to make cool snapshots and documents of our friends making music.
Yeah.
And
dang it, that's awesome.
To do a good job on it, to make them look and sound as good as they can. Mm-hmm. But that's it. Just trying to do projects with friends at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no grand scheme to like for world takeover or whatever. Strictly a labor of love. If you want to see a labor of love, often it is boxes of records hanging out in your basement for a long time.
Yeah. You were talking about a lot of the bands that you're working with. I'd love to at least just kind of shout out some of the other bands that all your members have been a part of, or anything that you've also played with as well, just to document it from my point of view for the Rhode Island history part of, can you kind of get into any of the other projects?
Man, everybody's been in so many different things, I think, at this point. Bob sometimes was doing some vocals with Onlyville Sound System. He was in a band called The Fuzz. He was in I Destroyer. He was in Extinction Machine, Lolita Black. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's some other ones I'm blanking out completely on it. Yeah. It's been a long time. Brian's been in Straight to Hell, Neon Bitches. He's in Hellbent now.
Yeah.
He's been in like a million like project bands with friends of his over the years too. And George is like a whole, playing any band anytime kind of guy. But I think recently he's been in fucking Invincible.
Yeah.
Sweet Jesus. She Rides. I think he was in Mountain Man too for a little bit. He's like plus like 90 different New Bedford bands since he's jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. And I've not really, mostly I just do the Dropdead thing. I sit in with Siege a couple times to play second guitar for them, and jammed with Pain Driver a little bit for a couple weeks, and jammed with Ulcer for a couple weeks, but a couple little project things that never really went anywhere. But I always try to basically put all my energy into the one thing. Mm-hmm. I have so many irons in the fire that I'd love to play a bunch of different types of music with people. Just don't know where I would find the time to do any of it. Pick my battles on that one. But everyone is definitely music their way around town for sure.
No, it's cool. I have definitely a big footprint in the Rhode Island music scene.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to say, history-wise, probably there's a couple people in town you should hunt down. Ben McOsker from Load Records, if you haven't talked to him.
I haven't now. I'd love to, though. Yeah.
I would put him on your radar because he's a big part of why this town is on the map for a number of years. Mm-hmm. Ben's a great resource. Brian Simmons from Atomic Action. Brian is like one of the, like Ben, like those two dudes are two of the truest and like most hardworking like music dudes that have been around a long time. I have a ton of respect for them, and like I'm lucky to have them as friends. Mm-hmm. They're, the guys I can talk to, and we can all vent on similar stuff, and the frustrations of dealing with music stuff and music people and trying to get things done, and there's always trials and tribulations that go along with all this, and also, I don't think I've had better champions than those guys sometimes as friends.
Mm-hmm.
One good thing about Providence is, for the most part, everyone is down to help each other out.
Yeah.
Which maybe because it's a smaller city, or like, Rhode Island folks in general, people have been pretty helpful over the years. I don't know how that applies to other places because I live here. I always feel lucky to live here, and especially having resources like AS220 that, like, their doors open for everybody and everyone gets a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Travel around and you come back here and you realize that most places don't have a thing like that.
Yeah.
Like they really don't. People come and play that place and they're like, I can't believe it. I mean, AS220. When I went there the first time was Umberto and Susan, and it was real scrappy. It was above where Babyhead was, and they had an art space that welcomed anybody to do anything, and they planted a seed that turned into this thing that is ever growing and ever improving, and always trying to find ways to do stuff better and be more inclusive to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's kind of a one of a kind thing.
Yeah.
Town has some great venues too, but like that ES220 is like an all-in-one comprehensive thing is, kind of, to me, unrivaled. I just don't see anything like it anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree.
There are things like that somewhere else. I would like to know where they are so I can go
go play them. Yeah. Go hang out there. Yeah.
I'm working on a thing right now that I haven't talked to them about, but I'm working on putting together a backline to donate to them so that bands can have a backline when they get there.
Okay.
Like get a good bass cabinet, a couple good guitar cabinets, and a good set of drum shells so at least standard format bands can have something that, like when you're a kid in a band, half of the battle is like having something to play through.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it, and I bought a bass cabinet last week and a half, 2 weeks ago, that's sitting in my practice room, and I'm going to work on cobbling this thing together so that I can try to donate something useful to them if they want it.
That's awesome.
That's me on the record trying to get this done. So yeah,
cool.
Kids need some stuff, man. So hopefully we can do that and have it go there, and AS220 can get some use out of it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well, just a couple more things. I mean, I'd love to have you just talk a little bit more about the shop. Like, what can people expect that may not know about what Armageddon shop is? Type of things you carry.
Yeah, man.
Basic stuff,
So in hindsight, regardless of getting a name recognition through association with the label, might have been wiser to not have the word Armageddon in it because I think it definitely maybe is a little might be off-putting to people thinking it is just a heavy metal store or like a scary music store or whatever, which is not as far from the truth. We do have a lot of metal and punk and hardcore stuff, also classic rock, blues, jazz, indie rock, funk, soul, like we like all types of music. So the door is open on stuff of quality, regardless of what it is. And yeah, we still carry CDs because when you can buy a cool used CD for $3 versus a download for 10, I don't know. Sometimes you can walk out with a stack of stuff for $30. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, used stuff is great. I think all people, you don't need it to be in super 100% sealed up, perfect condition. you know, you can get a lot of good used music for cheap. And I think that is something that we always try to do, is have a large selection of stuff that's priced to go to a home within a reasonable amount of time. You know, being a record museum is not what we've tried to build, you know, maxing out prices on stuff and all that. That's never really been our MO.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, t-shirts, books, magazines, videos. The shop is the place for people that want the actual thing to have the social interaction that you get when you go to a store. You know, like part of it. I mean, Chris and I, we talk a lot. We're like, yeah, man, you know, I think we definitely have a group of people that come to shop, and we are their sounding board for a lot of stuff, and we're their therapy for a lot of stuff. And, you know, a spot where you can come and you can be a weirdo, you can be whatever you want, and we're not judging you for it. You know, like, we have people who come in with a lot of issues, and like, just come in and we just say, hey man, how you doing today? And try to make people feel as welcome as we can. Yeah, it's supposed to be like that. It's kind of a, you know, it's our social work sometimes. You know, make people feel comfortable and welcome in a spot. And we always try to have local music. Chris and I were talking recently, and we realized that less local bands and local labels are bringing stuff in. You know, I'm not sure we know why, but I think maybe just because things have changed and a lot of people are doing stuff direct. You don't need a record store anymore to get your local band thing into somebody's hands. You know, you can do a band camp. You know, I don't know. And
your DistroKid to Spotify and whatever else.
And you know, I gotta say, maybe this is making me old, but I kind of lament the demise of lotsofnoise.com.
Okay.
The message board that was, you know, it went pretty strong through most of the 2000s. It was a good place for everyone in Providence to cross-pollinate. And now that it's not there and people are just using Facebook and Instagram, I feel like the cross-pollination has kind of died away a little bit. You know, since only the people that you're friends with see your stuff, or the people that follow you, and you don't really have an opportunity to get exposed to new stuff as easily. You know, when everyone was going to the one spot to do stuff, it was real easy to find out about every little weird thing going on in town. Yeah, I feel like I'm more out of the loop now than I used to be. Just, I don't have a way to go to one spot and see what's going on in town. So I feel like as weird of a thing as it was, you know, before you just knew what people were doing because you talked to them, and then Lots of Noise was kind of like the step between that where a lot of people used it. And now it's Facebook and other social media. But, you know, yeah, you can have a lot of friends, but, you know, you're not necessarily reaching other people that might be interested in what you're doing. I don't see an easy way for that to happen unless you're going to spend money on them and try to advertise to people. Kind of gross, but, you know, it's me just being sad about Lots of Noise for a minute. It was a good spot.
Yeah. Just one more question for you here. What would you say is your greatest music accomplishment?
I don't know. I guess the only encompassing one would be that I've been able to turn a thing that I loved as a teenager, you know, getting into, you know, music in the early 80s and getting steered on the path of like punk and metal stuff through skateboarding and BMX stuff in the 80s. And, you know, when I got out of high school, I didn't have any idea that I would be here doing this now, you know, like, and I had no idea I would be on the journey, the life journey I've been on this whole time. Like, did not know that you could actually build a life for yourself by being involved in music. Like that was never a thought that I had as a kid or a teenager that was a possibility. I figured I was going to be a carpenter or something, like building houses or, doing sheetrock or whatever, which I've also done. So, but yeah, like to be able to somehow craft a life where I'm my own boss and I can, like Chris and I, we both like just to be able to get to this point and be able to do music and make a living at it without, screwing people over. It's like, that's pretty cool. Like being able to be a part of a thing that like, it's a business and it's a band, but the things, peripherally all around it are generally pretty uplifting for other people. It's a weird community,
Yeah.
It's our weird little family that we kind of put together. I'm pretty proud of the weird little family. Got a bunch of good folks in my orbit that I am feeling real fortunate to have and to be able to do music things and make a living at it, even if sometimes it taps a little bit of the magic out of stuff with the daily mundane things. But the bigger picture is pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it also, like, to add in from my perspective of like doing it yourself as well, like to be able to do music DIY, not like looking at it, as a teenager, even some of the bands that you mentioned, I'm sure you're looking at them that like they got signed to a major label and then they became this bigger rock stars and they had that machine that was behind them and that's how they were able to make their existence. And you guys have done it. You have done it yourself, like literally, so.
I know people that took the other route too. And, also there are some dudes out there that are real, like it's their day job, like where they really bust their ass to do it. I always say whatever way you can make music work for you to make a living. And if you're not gross about it, that's super cool. I guess some people get a lot of money for doing music stuff. Good on them, man. If they're not ripping people off and everybody's happy, then can't really say anything bad about that. If that's the only reason they're doing it, well, maybe not cool. But if you're able to do your art and make a living on it and get paid fairly, no one should ever have a problem with that. Get out. If you can do art or music or be a writer or whatever, go for it.
Absolutely.
Better than a lot of other things you could do that are more soulless and like just punching a clock and going home. In the meantime, we'll just call it a very expensive hobby. If you're lucky enough to play music at all, I think you can call it an expensive hobby and feel fortunate.
I mean, I have a ton of respect for everything that you're doing and everyone else that's in Dropdead with you, man. It's really admirable and it's just wonderful to see that the presence that you've kind of spread like around the world, just like helping put this city on the map. It's incredible, so
I think we're lucky to have been from here and have had a lot of people that, especially in the early days, that were open-minded and some people gave us some good advice and gave us what's the saying, many hands makes for light work. We had a lot of people around that helped us out and pointed us in the right direction, and people that weren't let four weirdos who were not great musicians scream and yell and make a bunch of noise a lot of times and put up with it. So we're pretty lucky to be from here. So if anything, putting Providence on the map, I don't know if that's us, but definitely taking Providence around to some places and try to let folks know that it's an open-minded place where if not for nothing, if you want to move here, it's a small place and everyone can make a difference. Where in a big city, there might be like 20 guys doing something. In Providence, you might be the only guy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I always think it's a great spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate your time and you doing this interview, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. I was not expecting it, and it's super cool.
Cool, man.